But otherwise, thank you very much, Susie. Otherwise, I would like to start by beginning to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, and I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Okay, a little bit about what we're covering today. We'll start off with the basics of what corporate volunteering is and the components that are made up in that. We'll be talking about the benefits, not just for a community organisation, but also from the perspective of the corporates, the employer and the employee, just so you can see a well-rounded approach of how it sort of benefits everyone and how everyone can work together. I'll talk a little bit about becoming corporate volunteering ready. And I have put together a resource for that. So once the recording's been sent out, I can send that resource out to you as well as just a bit of a checklist and a prompter if you are thinking about going down the corporate volunteering path. I will also touch base a little bit on how Volunteering Queensland offers a corporate volunteering program with the partnerships we have with our corporates, and a bit of an example of a corporate volunteering experience, and then we'll finish off with some Q&As at the end. Okay, so what is corporate volunteering? Here we have a definition of it's any action by an employer to encourage and support the volunteer involvement of their employees in the community, whether during work hours or an employee's own time. So a lot of times with the corporate volunteering programs with our partners, it's something that's offered within work hours. They might be given a day annually, be given 2 or 3 days annually, or they might support employees to volunteer outside of work, and they might match that with financial support. So there's lots of different ways that it can be offered. So we touched on COVID before because really it wasn't and we are still experiencing a lot of the effects from that. And a lot of this will maybe resonate with your organisation as well as to how you might have been affected within COVID. For example, temporarily closing down operations, choosing to pivot to online delivery, and perhaps you had to reduce to core services only. And so what we're seeing is we're facing many other challenges with the recruitment of volunteers becoming tougher. Got many volunteers not returning that were there before. However, there are some signs of recovery in most data, but volunteering numbers are still below the needs of many organisations. So can I have a set of hands of the people who think that, well, we've got some people there, we're going to get a few people there, but hands up if you feel the effects still of the reduction volunteers due to COVID. Yeah. And I'm assuming people without faces are probably nodding their heads as well. It is important to note how people are volunteering in different ways, not to a set schedule, which can make it a little bit trickier orchestrating for your organisation. Maybe they're not able to commit as many hours. There's cost of living pressures is also an issue. People can't either afford to volunteer or they're having to work extra time, leaving less time to volunteer. There's a lot of things happening in the background as to why those numbers are like that. Many corporate organisations have something which you probably have heard of, which is a CSR, or a corporate social responsibility commitment, which includes encouraging their employees to volunteer. So VQ has received an encouraging amount of corporate inquiries, and we're finding that those inquiries are increasing each month with the inquiries coming into our inbox. But people are starting to consider how they can give back within their organisation. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time because they need to learn about it. Perhaps they need to get HR structures in place, and potentially they need to get their leadership team on board as well. But there is definitely, we are noticing within VQ that there's a lot more interest for corporate volunteering. So there are different types of ways that corporates can volunteer. And we did mention before that there's corporate volunteering days that can be offered within work hours for corporate volunteers, between 1 to 3 days, generally speaking. We have team-based volunteering, skill-based and personal. I will be playing a little video in a second that will talk about team-based and skill-based volunteering. But important to note with personal volunteering that you might, for example, have someone who's volunteering for your organisation at the moment, and then they have an organisation they work for that offers corporate volunteering days, so potentially they can extend their time to volunteer with your organisation through personal volunteering. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the video. Hopefully you can hear it. Technology is sometimes fabulous, sometimes our enemy. So hopefully let me know if there's any problems. But this is a video that I put together. It's just a segment of it that I put together for our corporates to help their employees understand a little bit about what corporate volunteering is and touching a little bit on the skilled and team-based. This presentation will be mainly focusing on based volunteering. With a view that we can have something in the future about skill-based volunteering. They're quite different ways for corporates to be able to assist your organisation. And to take it with a grain of salt as well, because this has been developed for the particular corporates we have at the moment. So there obviously might be different needs depending on which you might partner with. Hi, and welcome to this video on corporate volunteering. Corporate volunteering is an opportunity for you to give back to your community during work hours, either as part of a team or individually. Volunteering Queensland has partnered with your organisation to facilitate its corporate volunteering program. Volunteering Queensland is the lead voice for volunteering in Queensland, supporting this essential industry to thrive. As a state peak body, we are solely dedicated to advancing and promoting volunteering. Our community relies on the commitment of volunteers, and corporate volunteering is one of many ways to give back. Team-based volunteering is when you and your team come together for one day to make a difference in your community at an organisation that aligns with your business's values. Depending on the volunteering opportunity, teams may range from 4 people up to 20 or more. Volunteering opportunities could be for 2 hours, up to a full day, but usually average around 4. This information is outlined under each individual volunteering opportunity on your volunteering portal. Skilled-based volunteering links eligible employees with volunteer positions in area of personal strength, such as administration, marketing, customer service, engineering, business analysis, grant writing, and strategic planning. This kind of volunteer work can be done in a day or for a few hours over several weeks or months, either online or in person. This type of volunteering also takes place during work hours, supported by your organisation with your manager's approval. For the essence of this video, we will be covering team-based volunteering. Okay, can we all hear me now, Susie? All good? Fantastic. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to some examples of how you might be able to access team-based volunteering?
And there's a question in the chat from Christina asking, do corporates come to you and ask you to connect them with volunteer organisations? And if so, is there a process for being considered?
There absolutely are plenty of corporate volunteers that come through to us. We have something on our VQ website about corporate volunteering. And it has an area for them to express interest. And so that comes through to our corporate volunteering email inbox, and then I contact them and see if they're looking to, and it'll make a bit more sense once I talk about what program we offer, but we offer a fee for service program that we can manage completely for them, or they may be looking more for a bit of a do-it-yourself type corporate volunteering. I will be sending out something soon to all our members, inviting you to contact me if you wish to be considered to be a partner on our program, and to be able to list your information for corporates that might be interested. So that's definitely something that that you have access to, but I would most likely have the corporates come through to us rather than me contact them. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Fantastic. Excellent. And that's it, Susie? Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so as I mentioned, this presentation is more about team-based volunteering, but we are certainly keen to progress on skill-based volunteering. I'll also be sending out a survey to our members, asking you to consider if you had any type of work that could be supported by corporates in skill-based. So that's something that will come. However, here are some examples of the types of things that our corporates do in team-based corporate volunteering. So you might have someone come and paint a room of yours that's looking a bit old, fixing maintenance work. They can help with gardens, whippersnippering, mowing, blowing, water pressure hosing. We have things like cooking meals. A lot of times corporates love to be able to spend time with your clients if suitable. And a lot of the community organisations we've connected with as well really like that opportunity for their clients to be able to spend time with corporates as well, to have that experience of working with alongside members of the community that they might not otherwise have the opportunity to do. You can have them help with event support, whether on the day prior, picking, packing, putting things together, picking up rubbish, anything that you can think I could really do with an extra set of hands. That's the sort of thing that you might be able to tailor into having corporates come and help you, whether it's something that's consistently needing to be done, or whether you think we don't necessarily want to facilitate corporate volunteers ongoing in a regular sort of way, but you might have them come along. A large group might come along and help you do something that you've been not being able to do. So there's different ways, different levels of flexibility, different levels of commitment or no commitment. But I was wondering if anyone here has had any experience with corporate volunteers working with them, and if they could share a little bit about types of things that those corporates have helped them with.
So my name is Vicky. I'm from Inclusi. My previous experience was mostly outside of Inclusi. I was a manager for an organisation that had a component of volunteers, and we had corporate volunteers who would come and do things like you already mentioned. So make a meal, they did some painting, gardening, so redid the gardening, and they really loved it. They obviously, it was a team building for them, would give a little bit of a tour as well. And what I would probably actually encourage, if you've already got volunteers, sometimes we don't necessarily promote all our programs or try and cross-reference into workplaces of our volunteers because they're already donating our time. But why I say this is I had a volunteer in this organisation who was working in more of an admin reception role, and I must have missed it and not told her about one of our programs in induction. And she was there one afternoon when corporates came in to do a meal. And basically she was like, oh, what's this all about? So she actually went back to her workplace, got them involved. And not only did they do a meal monthly, but they ended up paying for one of the ovens that had broken down. So it was all because of a conversation. So at the moment in our organisation, Inclusive, we have remote volunteers. So the opportunity to do the group team building which a lot of corporates are after, is a little bit more challenging because our programs are one-on-one. But it's really, really great and can help with a lot of different projects that you may have on board as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's a perfect example of how, I guess, just having that opportunity to touch base with a corporate that you've never done before, the opportunities that can come from that, either, you know, time that they give or financial support that they give as well. So that's a really great example. I appreciate you sharing that. But absolutely, there are organisations, of course, that aren't able to facilitate corporate volunteers. However, I do have team-based that can be little as 2 people, where it needs to be a little bit more discreet. And so the size, don't let the size overwhelm you necessarily. But of course, promising to know, hopefully, that we are looking to really put a big effort into skill-based as well, which would suit organisations that can't necessarily facilitate team-based or are looking for both those levels of support.
We've got Marion as well, and then Christina. We've got Marion as well, and then
Hi, Marion.
Hello, everyone. I'm in the Smith family and setting up currently a brand new team of virtual volunteers. So it's a really different space for many. And although I have facilitated many programs in the past where we've had more teams come in and support our on the ground programs, this is a space where we're doing team building exercises with corporate volunteers who are actually jumping online to help us do some administrative tasks for, say, just an hour. But we've, as an organisation, I guess, pivoted since that whole COVID that locked out so many experiences, and we've invested in an online platform that actually removes any of the child protection and privacy issues, and it kind of pulls a copy of the paperwork that they'll be working on and checking from our internal systems into an external system that has everything removed that could identify the student or where they are or their school, things like that. And we have our volunteers go in and check the profiles. And the purpose-built system has worked really well with what we've tested so far, but we're just about to release the next stage, which is like an auto-assign function. So volunteers can log in to the system and then select how many tasks they want to do, what kind of tasks they want to do, and the stage of tasks that they're at. So just about to test that and see how it is. But it's looking good and giving them a lot more, I guess, autonomy over the tasks that they will be assisting with. But some of it will be done in team activities with our corporate partnership managers, but they can continue those activities afterwards as well.
I love that. I love that. So they have the opportunity to be able to go ahead and continue volunteering, and they've had that experience and the training involved. That is an amazing example of how to pivot, and well done. That's super exciting. I'd love to chat to a little bit more about that, because you know, particularly when you said that the team-based opportunities, do they work together? I know they're online, but do they work together in the same office or not necessarily? What does that look like?
No, they can actually, so for example, we could have Deloitte across the country, several different offices all jump in at the same time. So it really expands the opportunities to not having to be location-based. So it's really exciting, actually. So we're seeing some organisations and those that aren't even corporate partners, but corporates, for example, Zendesk, that have said, oh, we'd love to do something like this. So they're putting their hand up to bring their teams together from different offices, different states, into the one room, which is facilitated by my team. And they'll just jump in for an hour and do their work, and then they can continue doing the work afterwards and continue to assign themselves tasks for as long as they like.
Amazing. That's amazing. It's very inspiring. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'll be in touch.
Well, it's Christina. I was going to say I'm fascinated as well. If you're going to set something up, I'd love to have a conversation about it. The organisation that I'm volunteering with at the moment is all virtual. So we've got people in Australia and overseas. And it's really challenging to engage people and also to get the work done. So I'd be very interested in hearing how you're doing, you know, what you've talked about. The other thing that I love about what you're doing is we all hear about how the volunteer landscape has changed and people are busy, and they want to be able to choose when they volunteer, where they volunteer, how they volunteer. And I've really been thinking we've got to change what we're doing and understand that if this is what the volunteer market is doing, who are we to try and influence that market and change that culture? Certainly you can have that element, but what can we do to actually change our needs so that they're meeting the volunteering needs, and having that ability to just jump on for an hour, to self-select, to take a piece that's this big or this big, I just think is spot on. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Absolutely. And I'll have a chat to Andy and Susie about this area. They're always looking for sort of presentations such as this, sort of new and innovative. And I think that's something that we could chat further about, Susie. Yeah, yep, definitely. So we'll keep you in the loop, Christina, and thanks, Mary.
Thank you. I was also
Thank
going
you.
to say the organisation I previously used to volunteer with, we prepared meals for people who were at risk, and we had some Suncorp volunteers or Suncorp staff come along. So it was, which was great. Suncorp's, you know, got it all set up, and essentially they provide for every hour of volunteering, they provide $40 for the organisation. So it was great. I just had a few people who would have volunteered anyway, but because they worked with Suncorp, they could access that funds that we got. And yeah, so it was more word of mouth, or as those volunteers would talk to other people at work, or if I came across people that I knew worked at Suncorp, you know, I could offer it to them. So it was just an added bonus, really. Wasn't a lot of money, but it was nice.
And yeah, absolutely. And I think that's not everyone understands that. Yes, it's fantastic. We really appreciate that you're donating your time to volunteer. However, that still does involve costs. It involves, you know, your volunteers or staff facilitating the supervision and introductions and safety briefings and any materials that go with that. So I think there seems to be more education understanding that yes, it's great to be able to donate your time, but also to support in other ways as well. And, you know, that's not to say that when you have them all there on the day that you can't mention that in some sort of way that, you know, we're always open to any additional, you know, support. But yeah, we do, and I'll touch on that soon with our corporate volunteering program, that we definitely give a contribution as well to any connections that we make. But I'll touch on that soon. Is that everyone's question, Susie? Yep. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So yes, as I mentioned, I'll be talking about benefits of corporate volunteering team-based to your organisation, but also touching on where they're coming from, the employers and the employees, just to understand their motivations, which can help you utilise when you develop the corporate volunteering profiles and briefs for the corporates. Okay. So obviously it's accessing a different pool of volunteers that you might already have. You can access different skills and knowledge and technical expertise that the corporates have that they can share with you. And of course, it's a perfect opportunity when everyone's under the same roof to be able to share your organisation's mission, to pick potential ambassadors, just like you were talking with Suncorp. Once you've had a few of the employees come, they let other people know, and sometimes corporates sort of, without sounding too derogatory, like to adopt a community organisation that they would like to help in a continual fashion. And then we mentioned that you can access teams to help out with major tasks that might be a little bit too much at the time for one staff or volunteer in your organisation. When you get a whole group together, they might be able to do some sort of jobs that require a lot more people, and that of course includes events as well. And of course, there's always opportunity to create corporate partnerships with potential income streams for community projects. So obviously doesn't always happen, but if they know that you exist and they've had experience contacts with you, there's a greater chance of that being something that could happen. Corporate employee benefits. So obviously meeting new people, exploring new situations and challenges that they might not have access to in their current life, at home or at work. Team building is definitely a huge one. When I'm working with the corporates, they're very much about the opportunity to team build. But what I love about this is that they consider it as a way to support their organisational culture of giving back. They might have teams, employees from all over the world come together for a week, do strategic planning, for example, and they make sure that as an activity, so instead of an activity of paint and sip, which is always great fun, they will choose to have their team come together and to do corporate volunteering. So that meets their corporate social responsibility. It helps them, spend time with their team members in a way they might not usually do, and to be able to give back. So that ticks a lot of boxes there. And of course, there's a lot of research that shows that volunteering does help reduce stress and increasing feeling of well-being. Definitely the responses that I get from all our corporate volunteers is that they felt really good about giving back and inspired to help more in the future. The company benefits at the more higher strategic level. We've got heightened image and positive recognition by external stakeholders. So, it's always good to support an organisation that isn't just about take and it's about giving back. Working around staff morale, motivation, team spirit. Of course, with a team base, you've got employees that might be working with their leadership team that they don't usually spend a lot of time with, or people from all over the world, or different business groups that they don't usually spend a lot of time with. Particularly what I find interesting is that it helps employee attendance, recruitment and retention. I've got a quote that will support that on the next slide, but a lot of the younger generation are looking for corporate volunteering programs that are available by their potential employer as one of the things to consider when they're looking to take that job. So that's really positive. The younger generation are looking for that, but of course it generally comes with a different landscape, as we mentioned before, that they're looking for more one-off micro volunteering, the flexibility, the online, and of course contributing to their CSR. So the quote was, yes.
No, you finish your quote and then I'll ask the question.
Okay, no worries. Firms are facing strong demand for corporate social responsibility from their employees, so much that has become a serious part of the competition for talent. Ask almost any large company about the business rationale for its CSR efforts, and you'll be told that they help to motivate, attract, and retain staff.
So linked to that, Jennifer's asked if you know of any research from the last few years of corporate volunteering to support the fact that there's that increased retention. Is it purely anecdotal, or do we have any research to support that?
I will look into that with our with our policy and stats extraordinaire, and I'll see what I can pull together to send out for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Okay. So I have put together a resource, a bit of a checklist that I'll send out when we send the recording of this to you. Just some considerations about coming corporate volunteering ready. It breaks it down to the preparation of developing your offering, the types of things that you can do on the day, and then the follow-up afterwards. And it goes through things like informing and consulting and making sure that everyone's on board, getting feedback from everyone involved in your organisation. Everyone has a different perspective of the types of things they could achieve from a corporate volunteering participation. It goes through lots of different things in regards to planning. Let's see if I have notes here, because I don't have the sheet in front of me. It includes things like determining the types of jobs that corporate volunteers could do, the hours and days that suited your organisation, or are you flexible? As I mentioned, it's generally in work hours. Whether you've got a space that's appropriate to facilitate the corporates. One of our community organisations that we've partnered with has a conference or a room that can be used as a meeting room, so that if they're getting together for a strategic planning session, they can use that room, do the corporate volunteering, then come back and have lunch. So that's something I thought would be interesting to consider if you had the space. But of course, they don't expect that. They're not looking to. They are actually there to help support you on the day, and they're very enthusiastic about that, and they're quite happy to get out of their office. So that's on your side for sure. Once you've completed the planning stage, you'll be able to develop all the supporting communications, including your volunteering brief, which will include such things as your maps, your car parking details, documents to sign. So that checklist obviously provides a lot more context within that. And then you've got things that will cover off insurance, your workplace health and safety policies and procedures, safety briefings. If you're going to be catering, if they're going to cover the catering, access to facilities, etc., your first aid kits. And then it skips to the feedback and recognition. So what we do with our corporate volunteering program is that we send a survey, an online survey, to our corporates to see what they say, what they took from it, any feedback they might have. And we do that with a community organisation as well. And we do that through something called SurveyMonkey, which is a free platform to be able to do that. And then for the recognition, it can be as simple as an email saying thank you, and do obviously you can give them certificates, or you can do social media posts as a way to help promote their organisation as being someone who's been supporting your organisation. So there's a few different tips on that sheet. Does anyone have any questions? Sort of a bit rushed through, and I hope it makes a bit more sense once you receive that.
So we'll circulate that practical resource to everybody afterwards.
Okay. Okay, so once you have your brief together, and of course, you know, it's often evolving. You'll do a few corporate volunteering team-based events and learn from that and pivot and grow. But once you have your brief together, and I believe we do have resources about writing position descriptions for our members when it comes to requesting volunteer support. But different ways to be able to access corporates, of course, contacting them directly. Is there someone that you can think of that you would like to go and see if they are interested in volunteering, and maybe contact their HR department? A lot of them have social responsibilities departments. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to dig your way through to find the right contact. But you can always go onto social media and search the hashtags for corporate volunteering. And often you'll see posts that come up with them volunteering, and that's a good starting point to be able to contact them. Okay. Talking to your past and current volunteers, I think it was Christina was saying, I think it was, yeah, that people who are volunteering with you currently are perfect places to start, to see if they know anyone to spread the word. online volunteering Queensland. We have a search function. Of course, you probably would realise that you can put your volunteering ads on there, and people can search under a filter for groups of 10 or more, and that will bring up corporate volunteering opportunities. Your website, of course, we've got some VRCs at the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, Townsville and Cairns. And then, of course, you're most welcome to reach out and talk to me about our corporate volunteering program to see if that's something that we can support you with. Okay, so just a little bit about our corporate volunteering program. We are currently reviewing the offerings that we have for corporates, but at the moment we're offering a one-stop shop. And basically what they are engaging us to do is to roll out their corporate volunteering program. So I would work with community organisations, volunteer involving organisations. If you were to let me know that you were interested, we'd make a time for me to have a chat with you and to let you know a little bit more about the program, to see how we might be able to support you, any questions that you might have. Then I'd come out and I'd do a site visit and put together a job hazard analysis report to send to the organisations. And we'd work together on how to facilitate that day. So I would be the main contact for the corporate. So they would have a team lead who I'd work with. So I guess I'd facilitate between the community organisation and the corporate. I would work with you to set a date. We generally ask for about 6 weeks lead-in time from the corporates to allow organisations to be able to facilitate that and have that level of flexibility. We ask them to complete media consent forms. We send out a job hazard analysis report before the event, and then we cover off a safety briefing on the day and ask that they sign that before they start any work. And generally there's a trained VQ employee that comes along to the corporate volunteering team-based day as well to help your organisation and to help any sort of needs that the corporates might have as well. As I mentioned, there is a contribution every time one of the corporates comes and spends time doing a team-based corporate volunteering with an organisation. We give $330 as a way to say thank you for your time in spending time with our corporates and assisting that way. Or if you had groceries that needed buying, if it was a cooking experience, for example, we would cover that. Covering gloves and any other sort of safety gear as well. So we're quite flexible. As you can see, it's about a conversation about what your needs are and how we can turn that into something that the corporates can come and support. And then with the larger organisations, we do a team-based day report. So the person who's there from VQ will be taking photos and turn it into a report that they can share with their colleagues and friends and whatnot. And then we love to do social media as well as a way to acknowledge their support, but also to share with the world a bit about your organisation as well and the needs that you might have. So that's it in a very in a nutshell. Is there any questions that you might have before we move on? So at the end of the presentation, my email will be there, so you're most welcome to contact me after if you have any questions. Okay. Before I start, is it going to roll into it? This is an example of one of the organisations so Rio Tinto is one of our corporates that we partner with, and they spent a day at Ronald McDonald House cooking, and this is an example of the type of video that we would put together for social media. If it doesn't like to play. Okay.
So we're doing another batch of the frittatas. It's very yummy and very popular, and we have still time. So that's what we're doing. These girls are absolutely the best.
It seems to have stopped buffering, but you get the general gist of it. So yeah, that's an example, but it doesn't have to always be you know, a big commercial kitchen and exciting that way. I would work with you on what your what the offering is, and I would put together bit of a brief that is put on our corporate volunteers volunteering hub. So what they do is they jump online and they see all the different opportunities for volunteering, and it has a brief in there that covers things like you know, what they'd be doing, how they would be helping, you know, days and times, etc., team size requirements. So that's how they can gain that if they are a larger organisation, or if they're a smaller organisation and they're not looking to commit to multiple corporate volunteering events. They might just speak to me about what their company's looking for in terms of partnering with an organisation that aligns with their values, and then I would help facilitate that connection. But basically, that's what I've got to share today. Just finishing the video now. But thank you very much for spending time with me today. I hope that I wasn't stumbling on my words too much, and I hope that I imparted some knowledge to you that you may not have had. And really grateful for those who shared their experiences as well, and definitely keen to look into that a bit more. And we're constantly growing and learning as well. So, you know, we're very keen to hear your feedback and what your needs are. And I really look forward to hearing some of the responses on the survey that we send out, because we're keen to hear what you're wanting and what support you need as well. So if anyone has any questions, now's a good time, but otherwise, anytime you'd like to email me, I'm happy to help.
Do we have any other questions? I'd like to ask, so I've only been with BQ for a few weeks myself, so I'm still learning too. And I'm just wondering, Ari, how many corporates do we have on the program at the moment?
Okay, so we're currently working with larger organisations. We've got BHP and BMA, and we've got Rio Tinto as well. So these are ongoing contracts, but we do have a number of other organisations that I'm currently talking with at the moment. Sort of things are sort of in the pipeline there that hopefully we can help. But as I said, we are revising how we are offering our corporate volunteering support in a bid to extend corporate volunteering to support community organisations. So hence, any sort of feedback that you have of what you're looking for can help us, you know, put together that new offering. Yeah. So at the moment, just 2 big guys, 3-year contracts. But as I said, lots of inquiries coming through and things in the pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah, things are starting to pick up again as we try and find new ways of working. Well, it's not really after COVID, is it? But we do have another question from Monique. Yeah. He's asking, do the companies pay for you to manage the corporate volunteering program?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Even though we're a not-for-profit, we still have expenses that need covering. So the time that's, I guess, pays my time, as well as other services that we have here. So it is a paid opportunity. A paid arrangement. Yes.
And then obviously that's where the money that VQ provides to the volunteer involving organisation, that comes from the corporate as part of that package.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's right. So when we are working with a corporate, we sort of inform them that, yeah, the volunteering's not free, and that we definitely encourage a contribution to your organisation whenever they connect, and they're always more than happy to do that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And so there'll be a couple of things coming to our members' inboxes. in the coming months. So one of those things will be a survey around skills-based volunteering and what your needs as an organisation are around that in that space. And the other thing is this resource that Ari has developed, which will give you lots of practical advice. So as we expand on our corporate volunteering program, there's also nothing to stop you from reaching out proactively to particular organisations that you would like to partner with, and you can always come to us for advice on that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Thank you very much, Susie.
Are there any other questions before we finish up? No? Great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your time. This session has been recorded, so we will circulate that as well as I'll make sure that we include a link to where you can find all the information on our website about the corporate volunteering program as it stands at the moment. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone. You have a great afternoon. Thanks for your time. See you. Bye.